Check 1, 2.
Go! Curious about real estate? Yes! Then you've come to the right place. Get the knowledge you need. Get over the fear and get started. This is the Michael Quarles Real Estate Show with your host, Michael Quarles.
Hello, everybody. Michael Quarles with podcast number 35. This is exciting. Welcome to a brand new week. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for sending in your questions. Remember, in order to have your question answered, send it to support@bsffacademy.com. That's bsffacademy.com. Here we go. Question number 1. Should a DBA be filed under the investor's name or under the investor's corporate name? In all times, if we're going to go asset protect, so we're going to protect our assets, we should always file our DBAs under the corporate or the LLC. So corporate, subchapter S corporation for massive income, LLCs for passive income. So if I'm having a rental, I'm going to put it in an LLC name. If I'm flipping houses, I'm going to get it in a subchapter S corp. Now here's the deal, folks, and I'm not an attorney, so don't take this as attorney advice. However, you can't have passive income and dealer status at the same time. They consider flipping houses as dealer status, no different than selling t-shirts. So you can't be taxed at the lower passive rate unless you have it in a different entity like an LLC, because they're going to tax it at your personal income rate, which is what a dealer status is. So if you hold properties and you're flipping properties, make sure you have two different entities, an LLC, subchapter S corporation, one for each. Great question. Question number 2. How much will a real estate license come in handy as an investor of MLS properties? What kind of disclosures are required at the point of transaction? I think having a license is absolutely outstanding. I mean, outstanding. It does hurt us a little bit because then we have to disclose. Now, here's the deal. In my contract, I always tell the seller who I am, what I do. They absolutely know I'm a broker in California, and I don't have an issue with telling them that because I think honesty is the best thing that we could do. Now, in some states, you may have to tell them that on your marketing piece. In my state, I don't, as long as I'm a principal, meaning I am the one that's buying the house and I'm not representing someone who's buying the house. And in fact, in California, we cannot represent ourselves. We physically can't do it. So, of course, we can do the transaction ourselves, but the DRE, Department of Real Estate, says we can't have agency with ourselves. It's an impossibility. So we don't have to disclose if we are absolutely the principal. But if we're not the principal, then of course we have to disclose. I like having MLS access. I mean, I like getting the CMAs, the property profiles, sticking the thing on the MLS, save some commission. However, it's not really the savings that I like the most part. But I like to know the pendings, the expired. Man, if you have a list of expired listings, here's what you do. If you have some expired listings, I want you to do this. If you have expired listings, cross-check that expired listing against your listing of equity owners that you're marketing to. If that person who's an expired listing shows up on your equity list, you drive over there, knock on the door, go buy that house because they want to sell it. They have the ability to sell it from an equity standpoint, and the agent no longer has the listing. Just drive right over there. I don't care what you're doing. Eating lunch, just drive right over there. But man, having a license is a great thing. There are disclosures that your broker's going to have you do, and that's not a problem. We're open, we're honest with everybody. No problem at all. Question number 3. Are pre-foreclosures a good list to market to for subject to deals? Why and why not? Well, yes and no. Here's the deal. We want to make sure there's some equity base if we're flipping houses and extinguishing the subject to note when we go ahead and resell. Now, if we're a sub 2 passive investor, so what we're doing is we're buying marginal houses so they don't have to have a lot of equity, and we're passing that sell, and we're going to collect a monthly payment like if we were a landlord, except in this case, we're going to make a mortgage payment to us. So we may wrap that, or we may take a junior note to it. In my opinion, the pre-foreclosure is only okay if they have equity. And like I said before on the expired listing, if you have a pre-foreclosure and it has an equity, so you pull that list, it's on your equity-based list, drive over there and see if they're willing to sell, if they're ready to sell. especially if they're close to the trustee's sell date notice. So in California, that's 90 days. So if they're 90 days old, man, all of a sudden they're going to be hit with that 21 day. In 21 days, the bank's going to take your property. Man, drive over there and see if you can't do a deal. Other than that, I would not do the marginal sub 2 people in foreclosure. Here's the other issues you have with that. If they're in foreclosure and you're doing a sub 2, you've got to pull it out of foreclosure. And it's just not the costs of the delinquent. It's actually all the legal fees too, because they're going to put on about $4,500 in legal fees that they had to pay a trustee to start this foreclosure. And you have to come up and pay that off. Yeah, sure, you can put it on the back end of the loan sometimes on a loan modification, but it's still money that's owed. I surely wouldn't want that to happen. So if you're looking at pre-foreclosures and sub 2, make sure they have equity and go forward that way. Good question. Question number 4. When wholesaling, what's the best way to explain to the seller why I'm placing a for sale sign in the front yard? That's the super easy question, folks. It's because I'm going to sell the house to somebody after I do what I think needs to be done to it, and I'm going to make a huge amount of money. I'm going to start that process today. And in fact, in my agreement, it says that. It says I'm going to make a huge amount of money. Huge is the largest word on my agreement on the page. Bold, capitalized, largest word. And it also says that I'm going to place a for sale sign. I'm going to put the property in the multiple listing service. And I have the ability to put it in any periodical or newspaper or anything like that. I have it. That's my advantage. Now, we don't legally have to tell the seller that that's our intention. We have the right, once we have the right to buy, the seller no longer has the right to sell. Unless we've orchestrated some sort of a contingency contract that allows them to continue to sell it to somebody else. The moment we lock that property up, they no longer can sell it. So they're no longer the seller. We now have equitable interest, and that turns us into the seller. So because I'm the seller, I can now start selling it. Great question. Question number 5, and it's a scenario question. Folks, I love scenario questions. Here it is. Mr. Investor got a lead on a house located in the country club. The seller claims the houses were $700,000, but there are no comps to back up that price. Are houses in that location and price range worth pursuing? Absolutely. Think about it this way. What happens if that house is actually worth $700,000? And the fourth question on the questionnaire is, Mr. Seller, in today's marketplace, what were you hoping? Let me explain what I do first. I do it this way and I do it that way. We close on the day of your choice. I pay all the costs, no commissions. I buy them as is, and you can have my cash when you choose. Knowing that that's how I buy houses, what were you hoping to walk away with? The amount of money that I would put in your back pocket after we pay off everything that's owed against the property. What if the seller says, well, I only owe $300,000, and if I get $50,000 in my back pocket after all the costs, and you buy it as is, give me that cash on the day of your choice, or my choice, I'd sell it to you. Well, of course, my question back to the seller is going to be, I'm not saying I can, but if I could give you $50,000 plus pay off that $300,000 mortgage, take care of all the costs involved in buying the house, you'd sell me the house? And the seller, of course, is going to say yes, because that's just what they said. And then I'm going to say, all I need to do is simply set an appointment for tomorrow at 10 o'clock or 2 o'clock to come out and buy your house. And they're going to set the appointment. I'm going to go out there and buy a house. So absolutely, you never know, just because someone has a big old fancy house in a big old fancy area at a big old fancy price, you don't know that they're not going to discount that thing sharply. Man, I've bought a lot of houses from really intelligent people, and they just had a reason to sell it. And when people are highly motivated, they no longer want the house again. Remember this. I don't know if any of you folks on the call or the podcast have ever been married before. But remember, it's like a wedding ring. When you buy someone a wedding ring, and then if you get a divorce, it's not worth anything to anybody anymore. So someone's going to take that really expensive wedding ring, and they're just going to go and sell it for nothing hardly. Well, that's how some people feel about the house. After they've stopped using it, they no longer want it. It becomes a negative to them, not a positive like that wedding ring was in the original state, but a negative to them. They're liable to throw the house in the ocean if they could. So go out there, buy some houses, make opportunity happen, ask the questions. My goodness gracious. Thank you guys for asking me these questions. I really enjoy doing these 5-question podcasts, but let's get them up to 10. So send me in more questions so I can get up to 10 a day, on day in and day out. In order to do that, send it to support@bsffacademy.com. That's support@bsffacademy.com. Now, I have a favor. I rarely ask anybody for favors. It's just against my religion. I like doing things for people more than asking people to do things for me, but I have a big favor. I've been looking at my iTunes account, and I like my iTunes account, but I haven't got a review in a while. And if you guys like these things, please go on iTunes and say you like them. It'll help me. It'll get me a little farther up for more people to be involved and more people to ask questions and ask those good questions. That'll help you too. So if you could pop on iTunes and say, yeah, Mike's doing a pretty good job. Now, if I'm not doing a good job, you got to say that too. So if you don't like me, you don't like what I say, maybe you just aren't all real estate involved and all that, but maybe, I'm liable to get a bad one too. I understand when I ask for favors, I have to take the good and the bad. So, but I'm sure most of you are going to say, yeah, you like listening and going to give me a good rating. So if you could go to iTunes and tell them what you think about it. And man, our show will get more popular and better questions and everybody will get involved. So if you could do that for me, that'd be great. Hey guys, until next time, thanks so much for listening. I do appreciate you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Michael Quarles Real Estate Show. Get more info and stay in touch at michaelquarles.com.